The council made one demand: leave Earth's kids alone. They didn't listen. The chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive ring of metal and light that had witnessed 1,000 species make their promises. Juan adjusted his collar and tried not to show his nervousness. He had negotiated with presidents and kings back on Earth, but this was different. This was the Galactic Council, and humanity was the newest member at a table billions of years old. Commander Yuna stood behind him, her military uniform crisp and perfect. She had insisted on coming, though Juan knew she trusted aliens about as much as she trusted a broken weapon. Her hand rested near her sidearm, a gesture the council had permitted only because humans were so new to this. The council members sat in a semicircle before them. Some looked almost human. Others were so alien that Juan's mind struggled to process what he was seeing. There was a being made of crystal that hummed when it moved. Another looked like it was made of liquid metal. A third had too many eyes and limbs that bent in ways that made him uncomfortable. "Ambassador Juan of Earth," the crystal being spoke, its voice like wind chimes in a storm. "We welcome humanity to the Galactic Council. Your species has passed the threshold. You have faster-than-light travel. You have left your solar system. You have made first contact. Now we extend our hand in friendship." Juan bowed slightly. "The people of Earth are honored. We come seeking peace and partnership with the galaxy." A reptilian creature that called itself a Vexery leaned forward. Its scales were deep purple, and its eyes were cold. "Peace requires rules, human. We have laws that all species must follow. Trade regulations, military restrictions, territorial boundaries. You will sign our treaties, or you will remain alone in the darkness." Yuna's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. Juan had expected this. The council was offering partnership, but it came with a price: freedom for security, independence for acceptance. "We understand," Juan said carefully. "Earth is willing to negotiate in good faith." For the next 3 hours they discussed the standard agreements. Humanity would have access to council trade networks. They could establish colonies in designated zones. They would share technology and knowledge. In return, Earth would follow council law and submit disputes to council arbitration. It was all very reasonable. Almost boring. Then the crystal being spoke again. "There is one additional clause. It applies only to humanity." Juan felt Yuna shift behind him. "What clause?" he asked. The chamber grew quiet. Even the aliens who had been whispering among themselves fell silent. The crystal being's hum changed pitch, becoming something that sounded almost sad. "No entity, government, or individual may target human juveniles for any purpose. They may not be abducted. They may not be harmed. They may not be experimented upon. They may not be recruited, converted, or corrupted. Human children are absolutely protected under council law." Juan blinked. Of all the things he had expected, this was not one of them. We appreciate the protection, but why? You don't have this clause for other species." The Vexery made a sound that might have been laughter. "Because other species don't need it." "I don't understand," Juan said. The crystal being rose from its seat, floating closer. Up close, Juan could see galaxies swirling in its transparent body. "Your young ones are different, Ambassador. They possess something that makes them valuable to certain parties. Something that only manifests during development." "What do you mean?" Yuna spoke for the first time, her voice hard, a third alien. "Something that looked like a mass of tentacles in a containment suit," answered. "Human children develop abilities that adults lose. Small things, intuitions that are too accurate. Luck that defies probability, emotional impacts that influence outcomes. Most humans never notice. But we have studied your species for 50 of your years, watching from a distance. We know what you are." One felt cold. "You've been watching us? For 50 years? "We watch all species before first contact," the crystal being said gently. "It is necessary. And what we have learned is this: human children are precious beyond measure. Not because of what they are now, but because of what they might become. And because of this, there are those in the galaxy who would take them, study them, use them." "Over my dead body," Yuna said quietly. The Vexery showed its teeth. That can be arranged, Commander. But it would solve nothing. The treaty protects your young, but only if all parties honor it. And not everyone in the galaxy respects the Council. Juan looked at the treaty document floating in holographic form before him. The clause was there, written in clear language. Any violation would be considered an act of war against both humanity and the Council. Severe penalties would apply. Military intervention was authorized. Why are you really doing this? Juan asked. The truth. The crystal being was silent for a long moment. When it spoke, its voice was different, older, sadder. Because 6,000 years ago, another species joined the Council. They had young ones with similar gifts. We did not protect them adequately. Within a century, that species was extinct. Their children harvested and used in experiments we dare not speak of. The guilt of that failure haunts this Council still. We will not allow it to happen again. The chamber was absolutely silent. Juan felt Yuna's hand on his shoulder, a brief touch of solidarity. He looked at the treaty again, reading the words carefully. Every parent on Earth would want this protection. Every mother and father would sign anything to keep their children safe, but there was something else in the crystal being's voice, something it was not saying. What happens if someone breaks this treaty? Juan asked. The Vexery answered. Then the Council will respond with force. But more importantly, Ambassador, your species will respond. And we have seen what humans do when their young are threatened. Your history is full of such examples. Wars fought for generations. Cities burned, empires toppled. All because someone harmed a human child. You're afraid of us, Yuna said, and it was not a question. We are cautious, the crystal being corrected. You are a young species, but you have the capacity for great violence when motivated. This treaty protects your children, yes. But it also protects the galaxy from what you might become if someone takes them. Juan understood then. This was not just a gift, it was a warning. A rule meant to prevent a war that would consume everything. He picked up the signing instrument, a device that would bind humanity to the Council's laws. Yuna watched him, her expression unreadable. If anyone breaks this treaty, Juan said slowly, if anyone touches our children, you won't need to worry about what we might become. You'll see exactly what we are. He signed, the crystal being hummed, a sound of approval or perhaps relief. Then it is done. Welcome to the Galactic Council, humanity. We hope you never have to test the strength of our promise. As they left the chamber, Yuna walked beside Heon in silence. Finally she spoke. They're right to be cautious. I know, Juan said. If anyone takes our kids, there won't be a trial. There won't be diplomacy. I know. There will only be war. Juan looked out at the stars through the transparent corridor. Somewhere out there, his own children were sleeping safely in their beds on Earth. His daughter Sora was 8 years old. She liked drawing pictures of spaceships. Yes, he said quietly. There will be war, and we will win it. Yuna smiled then, cold and sharp. Good, I'm glad we understand each other. They walked back to their ship in silence, carrying with them a treaty that promised peace and protection. Neither of them knew that in 6 months, someone would break that promise, and the galaxy would learn what it meant to threaten Earth's children. The Council made one demand: leave Earth's kids alone. They didn't listen. The morning started like any other on Colony Sejong 7. Minho watched his students file into the classroom, their voices bright with excitement about the upcoming Harvest Festival. The colony had been established 3 years ago, and the farms were finally producing enough to feed everyone with surplus to trade. Life was good, simple, safe, or so everyone thought. Daeho Minho's nephew was already at his desk, sketching something in his notebook. The boy was 10 years old and curious about everything. He drew maps of the colony, diagrams of the farming equipment, pictures of the strange birds that nested in the grain silos. What are you working on? Minho asked, looking over the boy's shoulder. Patterns, Daeho said without looking up. I'm tracking the supply ships. They come every 12 days, but yesterday one came early. That's weird, right? Minho smiled. Maybe they had extra supplies? Don't worry about it. But Daeho frowned, still staring at his notes. It didn't land at the normal dock, though. It used the emergency pad near the east fields. Before Minho could respond, 14-year-old Jiwan raised her hand. Teacher Minho, there are ships coming. Big ones. The classroom had large windows that looked out over the colony. Minho turned and felt his stomach drop. 5 ships were descending through the atmosphere, and they were not the familiar council vessels or Earth transports. These were dark, angular, and covered in weapons. The colony alarm began to wail. Everyone stay calm, Minho said, but his voice was tight. Get away from the windows. Move to the center of the room. The children obeyed, but their faces showed fear. Minho activated his communicator. This is the school. What's happening? Colony Administrator Yunji's voice crackled through, tense and fast. We're under attack, raiders, unknown faction. They've disabled our defense grid. Get the children to the shelter immediately. Minho didn't hesitate. Everyone, follow me. Stay close and stay quiet. They moved as a group through the corridor. Other teachers were doing the same, herding children toward the underground shelter. Minho counted heads as they ran. 23 students. All present. All frightened but following instructions. Then the explosions started. The raiders weren't destroying buildings. They were using precision strikes to blow open doors and disable communications. Minho realized with growing horror that this was not a random attack. This was planned, surgical. They knew exactly what they were doing. The shelter entrance was ahead. 50 meters, 40, 30. The wall exploded inward. Minho threw himself over Daeho and 2 other children as debris rained down. When he looked up, figures were stepping through the smoke. They wore armor that looked like insect shells, and their faces were hidden behind helmets. But Minho could see their weapons, massive rifles that hummed with alien energy. Children only, one of them said in broken human language. Adults stay. Resist and die. Another teacher, a woman named Bora, stepped forward. You can't take them. The raider shot her. Not to kill, but the energy blast sent her flying backward, unconscious before she hit the ground. The message was clear. Jawan grabbed Minho's arm. What do we do? Minho's mind raced. He was a teacher, not a soldier. He had no weapons, no combat training. The raiders had at least 20 troops just in this corridor, and he could hear more throughout the colony. Listen to me, he whispered urgently to Jiwan. Whatever happens, you take care of the younger ones. Keep them calm. Keep them together. Do you understand? Jiwan's eyes were wide with fear, but she nodded. I understand. The raiders moved efficiently through the colony, gathering children. They used scanners to locate them, dragging them from hiding spots with mechanical precision. Parents fought back. Some were stunned. Others were killed. The raiders didn't care. They had come for the children, and nothing would stop them. In the chaos, Minho saw 8-year-old Sora being pulled from beneath a desk. She was crying, calling for her father. Minho recognized her because she had mentioned that her father worked off-world, something important with the council. The girl reached out toward Minho, but a raider shoved him back. Don't hurt them, Minho shouted. Please, they're just children. They are cargo, the raider said coldly. Valuable cargo. We harm no product. Within 30 minutes, it was over. 47 children stood in the colony square, surrounded by raiders. Daeho held Minho's hand tightly. Jiwan stood protectively near the younger ones, her face pale but determined. Sora was still crying, but quietly now, as if she had run out of tears. Yunji appeared, her face bruised and bleeding. She had tried to fight. You're violating council law? The treaty specifically protects human children. You'll have every fleet in the galaxy hunting you. The lead raider, taller than the others and wearing more elaborate armor, laughed. The council is weak. Their laws mean nothing in the outer sectors. And humans? You are new. You have no power here. You're wrong, Yunji said quietly. You have no idea what you've just done. The raider ignored her. Load them. We leave in 5 minutes. The children were herded toward the ships. Minho tried to follow, but raiders blocked his path. Stay, you are not needed. They need their teachers. They need a rifle pressed against his chest. They need nothing. Move away or join the dead ones. Minho had no choice. He watched helplessly as the children were loaded onto the ships. Daeho looked back at him, trying to be brave. Jiwon had her arms around two smaller children. Sora had stopped crying and was staring at the sky with an expression that was too old for her face. Then the ships were rising, their engines screaming. The raiders had what they came for. Yunji was already on her communicator, sending emergency signals to Earth and the Council. This is Colony Sejong 7. We have been attacked. 47 children have been abducted by unknown raiders. Requesting immediate assistance. This is a treaty violation of the highest order. Minho sank to his knees, staring at the sky where the ships had disappeared. Around him, parents were screaming, crying, searching for children who were no longer there. The colony was in chaos, but somewhere in the back of his mind, Minho remembered what Yunji had said. The raiders had no idea what they had done. The treaty was specific. Human children were protected. This was not just a crime. This was an act of war. And humanity had only been part of the galaxy for 6 months. These raiders had no idea what humans were capable of when their children were taken. Within the hour, the message reached Earth. Within 2 hours, it reached Ambassador Huan on the Council Station. Within 3 hours, the entire human fleet was mobilizing. On the raider ships, the children huddled together in cargo holds. Jiwon counted them all, making sure everyone was there. "Listen to me," she said quietly. "We're going to be okay? Help is coming. How do you know?" A young boy asked, his voice shaking. "Because we're human," Jiwon said with more confidence than she felt. "And humans don't leave their children behind. Ever." Daeho was sitting against the wall, already watching the guards' patterns, counting their numbers, noting which corridors led where. If there was a way out, he would find it. Sora was silent, staring at nothing. But in her mind, she was thinking about her father. He was a diplomat, important, powerful. He would come for her. She was certain of it. All the children were certain. Even scared, even trapped, they knew the truth. Their parents would come. Their people would come, and when they did, these raiders would learn why the Council had made that special treaty. The ships jumped to faster-than-light speed, carrying their cargo toward Krell space. The raiders celebrated their successful mission, already counting the profits they would make. They had no idea they were already dead. They just didn't know it yet. The Council made one demand: leave Earth's kids alone. They didn't listen. Juan was in a meeting when the message came through. He saw Yuna's face on his communicator and knew immediately that something was catastrophically wrong. She never interrupted unless it was an emergency. "Excuse me," he said to the Vexry trade representative and stepped into the corridor. "What is it?" "Sejong 7 has been attacked," Yuna said, her voice controlled but tight. "Raiders. They took 47 children." The corridor seemed to tilt. Huang grabbed the wall for support. "Sora?" She was visiting the colony for the school exchange program. "She's on the list of abducted children." Everything stopped. The sounds of the station faded. Juan's vision narrowed. His daughter. His 8-year-old daughter, who drew pictures of spaceships and wanted to be a scientist. Someone had taken her. Where are they? His voice was barely a whisper. "Unknown. But Taijin is already tracking them. I've mobilized the fleet without authorization. We're not waiting for council approval." "Good." Juan took a breath, forcing himself to think like a diplomat, even though every instinct screamed at him to act like a father. "I'll handle the political fallout. You find my daughter. You find all of them." "We will," Yuna promised. "I swear to you, Juan, we will bring them home." 30 minutes later, Juan stood before an emergency council session. The chamber was packed with representatives from 200 species, all talking at once. The crystal being called for order. "Ambassador Juan, we understand your distress, but humanity cannot simply mobilize military forces without council approval. There are procedures—" "My daughter is gone," Juan interrupted. 47 human children have been taken in direct violation of the treaty you created. The treaty you specifically designed to protect them. Tell me, Council, what are your procedures worth when children are being sold to the highest bidder right now? The Vexery representative stood. We will investigate. We will determine who is responsible. We will pursue appropriate sanctions. How long will that take? Juan demanded. Days? Weeks? While you investigate, what happens to those children? What experiments are being done on them? What are they suffering? We understand your concern, the crystal being said gently. But rash military action could spark a war. Juan looked around the chamber. Then there will be war. Because I promise you this, humanity is going after our children. With or without your permission. With or without your help. The only question is whether the Council will honor its own treaty. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some species supported humanity's right to rescue their young. Others warned that this would set a dangerous precedent. Still others simply wanted to avoid conflict at any cost. Juan didn't wait for their decision. He left the chamber and returned to his ship where Yuna was already coordinating the fleet. Status? He asked. We have 6 warships ready to deploy, including the Indomitable. Taijin has a lead? Intelligence Officer Taijin looked up from his screens. He was young, brilliant, and completely ruthless when necessary. Right now, that ruthlessness was exactly what they needed. The Raiders are part of the Razorclaw Syndicate, Taijin explained. Mercenaries. They operate in the outer sectors where Council authority is weak. I've intercepted communications suggesting they were hired by the Krell Dominion. The Krell, Yuna said with disgust. They're the ones who refuse to recognize our Council membership. Taijin nodded. They believe human children have undeveloped psionic abilities. They want to study them, weaponize them. The Razorclaw fleet is transporting the children to a research facility on the edge of Krell space. Juan felt rage building in his chest. How long until they arrive at the facility? 4 days at their current speed? But we can intercept them in 2 days if we push our engines. Then push them, Juan said. I don't care if we burn out every drive system in the fleet. We're not letting those ships reach Krell space. Yuna was already issuing orders. The Indomitable and 5 escort ships broke from Earth's defensive perimeter and jumped to faster-than-light speed. They ignored standard space lanes and Council traffic protocols. They cut through neutral zones and crossed territorial boundaries without asking permission. Every species in the galaxy watched in shock as humanity's ships moved with singular purpose, ignoring every diplomatic convention and safety regulation. In the Council chambers, representatives debated what to do. They're violating our space. One alien protested. They're going to start a war. Another warned. The crystal being was silent, watching the tracking screens. Finally, it spoke. They are going to get their children, and nothing we say or do will stop them. The only question is whether we help or get out of their way. On the Indomitable, Yuna coordinated with her fleet. She was a military commander trained to think strategically. But right now, she was also thinking as a mother. She had 2 children of her own back on Earth. If someone took them, she would burn entire worlds to get them back. Commander, one of her officers said, we're receiving communications from the Razorclaw fleet. They're demanding we stop our pursuit. Ignore them, Yuna said coldly. They're threatening to harm the children if we continue. Yuna's expression didn't change. Open a channel. All frequencies. I want every ship in their fleet to hear this. The communication system activated. Yuna's voice echoed across space, reaching the Razorclaw mercenaries and every other vessel within range. This is Commander Yuna of the Earth warship Indomitable. You have taken 47 human children in violation of Council law and Galactic treaty. Return them immediately, unharmed, and you will face trial. That is your only chance at survival. If you harm even one child, if you so much as frighten them, there will be nowhere in this galaxy you can hide. We will find you. We will find your families. We will find everyone you have ever known. And we will end you. This is not a negotiation. This is your one warning. The channel closed. One of her officers looked nervous. Commander, was that wise? Threatening them might make things worse. They need to understand something, Yuna said quietly. This isn't about tactics or strategy. This is about the fact that they took our children. Every second they have them is a second closer to their extinction. Fear might keep those children alive until we arrive. Taijin pulled up new data. I'm tracking their movements. They've split their fleet. 3 ships are heading to the research station. 2 are breaking off toward independent space. They're hedging their bets, Yuna said. Thinking if they split up, we can't catch them all? They're wrong. Coordinate with the Council. I need to know if any species will support us. The answer came quickly. Most of the Council wanted to remain neutral. But 3 species offered intelligence support. 5 offered medical ships to care for the children when they were recovered. 2 offered military assistance. The Vexry representative sent a private message to Yuna. We do not approve of your methods, Commander. But we understand them. Hunt well. 2 days later, the human fleet caught up to the first group of Razorclaw ships. The mercenaries attempted to negotiate. They offered to return some children in exchange for safe passage. They tried to use the children as shields. None of it worked. The human warships moved with terrifying precision. They disabled engines without destroying hulls. They cut through shields like they were paper. Within 30 minutes, 3 mercenary ships were dead in space, their crews frantically abandoning ship in escape pods, but the children weren't on those ships. The Razorclaw had lied, buying time for the other 2 ships to reach the research station. Yuna didn't waste time being angry. How long until the remaining ships reached the station? 12 hours, Taijin reported. We can't catch them in time, an officer said. Yuna's jaw tightened. Yes, we can. Redirect all power to engines. Life support to minimum. Weapons to standby. We're going to push these ships beyond their limits. Commander, the stress could cause catastrophic failures. Then we'll deal with it, Yuna interrupted. Those children are not spending 1 more minute than necessary in enemy hands. Make it happen. The Indomitable surged forward, its engines screaming. Behind it, the escort ships struggled to keep pace. Every crew member knew they were taking insane risks. Every one of them did it anyway, because somewhere ahead, 47 children waited for rescue, and nothing, absolutely nothing, would stop them from reaching them. The Council made one demand: leave Earth's kids alone. They didn't listen inside the cargo hold of the mercenary ship Blood Price. Gawan counted heads for the 20th time. 32 children, including herself. The raiders had split them up between different ships, probably hoping it would make rescue harder. Everyone stay together, she said quietly. Stay calm. Most of the younger children were crying. Some had stopped days ago, too exhausted or frightened to make noise anymore. 8-year-old Sora sat against the wall, her eyes distant. She hadn't spoken since the first day. Daeho appeared beside Jiwon. I've been watching the guards. They change shifts every 6 hours. There are always 3 of them outside this door, but only one actually pays attention. The other 2 talk to each other. That's good information, Jiwon said, though she had no idea what they could do with it. They were children locked in a cargo hold on a ship traveling through space. Even if they somehow got past the guards, where would they go? A small voice spoke up. Someone's coming to rescue us. Jiwon looked down at a 6-year-old boy named Junho. How do you know? Because that's what happens, Junho said with the absolute certainty only a child could have. When bad guys take kids, the good guys come save them. That's how stories work? Jiwon wanted to tell him that real life wasn't like stories. But looking at all the frightened faces, she realized that hope was the only thing keeping them together. You're right, she said firmly. Someone is coming. Our parents, our soldiers, someone. We just have to stay strong until they get here. The ship suddenly shook, and alarms began to wail. The children cried out in fear, clutching each other. Daeho ran to the small window and pressed his face against it. Ships, he shouted. I can see other ships. They're shooting at us. Yuan felt her heart leap. Human ships? I don't know. I can't tell. But someone's attacking. The battle lasted less than 30 minutes. The children felt every hit, every maneuver, every desperate attempt the blood price made to escape. Then everything went quiet. The engines stopped. The artificial gravity flickered. Heavy footsteps approached their door. The children huddled together, terrified. Was this rescue or something worse? The door exploded inward. Soldiers poured through, their armor clearly human in design. They moved with military precision, weapons raised, checking every corner of the cargo hold. "Clear?" one shouted. "We have the children." 32 confirmed. A woman in commander's insignia stepped through. Her name tag read Kyung. She lowered her weapon and her expression softened when she saw the children. "You're safe now," she said gently. "We're taking you home." The cargo hold erupted in cries of relief. Children rushed forward, some crying, some laughing, all desperate to believe it was real. Kyung knelt down, letting them surround her. "Is everyone okay? Is anyone hurt?" Ji-won stepped forward, trying to maintain the composure she had held for days. "We're scared, but no one's been physically harmed. The raiders kept us in here but didn't hurt us." "You've been very brave," Kyung said. "What's your name?" "Ji-won, I've been trying to keep everyone calm." "You did an excellent job." Kyung stood and activated her communicator. "Commander Yuna, this is Kyung. We have 32 children secure. They're frightened, but unharmed. Beginning evacuation now." Through the communicator, they heard Yuna's voice, tight with emotion. "Confirmed." "Good work, Kyung, but we're not done yet. 15 children are still missing. They were transferred to the research station 2 hours ago." Kyung's expression hardened. "Then we go to the station." "Already en route." "We're going to get them all back." The children were moved to the Indomitable, where medical staff checked them immediately. Most were dehydrated and exhausted, but otherwise unharmed. The Razorclaw mercenaries had been smart enough not to damage their cargo. On the ship's bridge, Yuna stood before the main screen, watching as the Krell research station came into view. It was a massive structure, bristling with weapons and shielded by powerful defenses. "They know we're coming," Taijin reported. "They're powering up weapons. Can we get past their defenses?" Yuna asked. "Not without significant casualties. That station was designed to withstand military assault." Yuna was silent for a moment. Then she opened a channel. "Krell Research Station Theta 9. This is Commander Yuna of Earth. You are holding 15 human children in violation of Council law. Release them immediately." The response came quickly. A Krell official appeared on screen, his reptilian features showing what might have been amusement. "Commander, you are in Krell space without authorization. Your presence here is an act of war. Leave now or we will defend ourselves." "I'll ask one more time," Yuna said coldly. "Release the children. The subjects are valuable research assets. We have invested considerable resources in acquiring them. We will not simply give them away because you make demands." Yuna nodded slowly. "Taijin, is Ambassador Huan listening?" "I'm here," Huan's voice came through. He was still aboard his diplomatic ship, having coordinated with the Council during the pursuit. "Yuna, I'm authorizing whatever action you deem necessary. Those children include my daughter. Bring them home. Understood." Yuna looked at her tactical officer. "Target their shield generators. Maximum firepower." "We're going in." The Indomitable's weapons opened fire. The research station's shields flared, holding strong. The Krell returned fire, but the human ships were faster, more maneuverable. "Their shields are at 70%, the tactical officer reported. "Keep firing." Inside the research station, chaos erupted. Krell scientists frantically tried to continue their work even as alarms wailed. In one of the labs, 15 human children were strapped to examination tables. Various machines attached to them. 10-year-old Daeho's cousin, a girl named Minji, struggled against her restraints. "Let us go." A Krell scientist ignored her, focused on his instruments. "Fascinating. The neural patterns are unlike anything we've seen. If we can isolate the genetic markers," the wall exploded. Kyung led her team through the breach, weapons raised. The Krell scientists didn't even have time to surrender. Within seconds, the lab was secured. "Get them free," Kyung ordered. Her soldiers cut the restraints quickly but carefully. The children were disoriented, some drugged, all terrified. But they were alive. Sora was among them. When the restraints came off, she immediately tried to stand but collapsed. A soldier caught her gently. "Easy there. We've got you. You're safe." "My dad," Sora whispered. "Where's my dad?" "He's waiting for you on the ship. We're taking you to him right now." The rescue team moved quickly through the station, fighting their way back to their extraction point. The Krell defenders tried to stop them, but the human soldiers fought with a ferocity that overwhelmed them. These weren't professional soldiers following orders. These were people rescuing children, and they would die before leaving anyone behind. Within 20 minutes, all 15 children were aboard the shuttle. Within 30 minutes, they were back on the Indomitable. Yuna met them in the medical bay. She walked past each child, checking their conditions, speaking softly to them. When she reached Sora, she knelt down. "Your father is on his way. He'll be here in 3 hours." Sora nodded, tears finally streaming down her face. "I knew he'd come." "I knew it. Of course he did," Yuna said gently. "That's what parents do." On the bridge, Taijin was coordinating with the other human ships. All children accounted for. 47 recovered alive. Minor injuries to 3. Everything else is psychological trauma. Yuna closed her eyes briefly, letting relief wash over her. Then she opened them and looked at the research station on the screen. It was damaged but not destroyed. "Commander," her tactical officer said carefully, "what are your orders regarding the station?" Yuna thought about the examination tables. The machines. The scientists who had looked at human children and seen only research subjects. She thought about what might have happened if they had arrived even a few hours later. "Destroy it," she said quietly. "Commander?" "You heard me. Target the main reactor. Turn that place into debris. I want everyone in the galaxy to see what happens when you take our children." The Indomitable's weapons fired one last time. The research station's reactor went critical, and the entire structure exploded in a brilliant flash of light. Across the galaxy, species watched the footage. They saw the human warship hovering in the debris field. They understood the message. Earth had found its children. And it had destroyed everyone who stood in the way. 3 hours later, Juan's ship docked with the Indomitable. He ran through the corridors, not caring about dignity or protocol. He burst into the medical bay and saw her. Sora was sitting on a bed, wrapped in a thermal blanket, a cup of hot chocolate in her hands. When she saw him, she dropped the cup and jumped into his arms. Juan held his daughter, and for the first time in days he allowed himself to cry. The council made one demand: leave Earth's kids alone. They didn't listen. 3 weeks after the rescue, Juan stood before the Galactic Council once again. But this time, the atmosphere was very different. Half the species represented in the chamber were demanding humanity be sanctioned for its aggressive actions. The other half were silent, watching carefully. The Krell Dominion had sent a representative. A high-ranking official named Dreth. He stood across from Hona. His reptilian features twisted in anger. "Ambassador Juan," the crystal being began, "you are here to answer for humanity's violations of council law. Your fleet crossed sovereign borders without permission. You attacked Krell property. You destroyed a research facility worth billions of credits. These actions cannot be ignored." Juan listened calmly. He had spent 3 weeks preparing for this moment. 3 weeks watching his daughter slowly recover from her trauma. 3 weeks hearing stories from other parents about their children's nightmares. "I understand the charges," Juan said, "and I reject them completely." The chamber erupted in shocked voices. The crystal being called for silence. "You reject them? On what grounds?" Juan stepped forward. "On the grounds that every action we took was in direct response to a treaty violation. A violation of the most serious kind. You created a law specifically to protect human children. The Krell Dominion and their mercenary allies broke that law. What did you expect us to do? Wait for your committees to discuss it?" Wait for your investigations to conclude? While our children were being experimented on, Dreth spoke up, his voice cold. We were conducting scientific research, valuable research that could have benefited the entire galaxy. Your children possess unique abilities that— They're not research subjects, Juan interrupted, his voice hard as steel. They're children. 8-year-olds who like to draw pictures, 10-year-olds who collect rocks, 14-year-olds who are learning algebra. They are not assets to be studied. They are not resources to be exploited. They are children, and you took them from their families. The treaty was designed to prevent incidents, the Vexry representative said, not to authorize military action. And the treaty was worthless, Juan said bluntly. What good is a law with no enforcement? You told us our children were protected. You gave us your promise. When that promise was broken, we did what any parent would do. We got our children back. Commander Yuna stepped forward to stand beside Haid, who'd been called to testify about the military operations. I want to make something very clear, Yuna said, her voice carrying across the chamber. What you saw was humanity showing restraint. We could have destroyed every Razorclaw base in the sector. We didn't. We could have reduced that research station to atoms from orbit. We didn't. We gave them chances to surrender. We offered them opportunities to avoid bloodshed. They chose to ignore those chances. You killed Krell citizens, Dreth said. Scientists and security personnel. Innocent people. Yuna turned to face him directly. They were holding children strapped to examination tables, running experiments on them. There's nothing innocent about that. And if you think that was excessive, let me tell you what excessive would have looked like. Excessive would have been glassing your homeworld. Excessive would have been hunting down every person involved in that operation and their families. Excessive would have been making an example so severe that no one would ever think about touching a human child again. The chamber fell silent. The threat was not hidden. It was clear and direct. The crystal being spoke carefully. You are saying that humanity would go to war over this. I'm saying we already did, Yuna said. And we won. The only question now is whether it happens again. Juan pulled up a holographic display. Let me show you what we found on that research station. These are the examination logs. The children were subjected to neural scans, genetic tests, and psychological stress experiments. All without consent. All without anesthesia in some cases. One child was kept awake for 72 hours to measure their stress responses. The images appeared on the main screen. Even the alien representatives who had been calling for sanctions looked uncomfortable. This is what you're defending, Juan said to Dreth. This is the research you claim was valuable. Tell me, would the Krell Dominion accept this treatment of your young? Would any of you? No one answered, Juan continued. The treaty you created wasn't just about protecting human children. It was about recognizing a fundamental truth. That children, regardless of species, deserve protection. That there are lines that cannot be crossed. When those lines were crossed, we responded. Not with aggression. Not with conquest. We responded with rescue. We saved our children and eliminated the threat. That's not a violation. That's justice. The debate continued for hours. Species argued about precedent and protocol. They worried about implications and consequences. But slowly, the tone began to shift, the crystal being finally called for a vote. The question before the Council is simple. Did humanity violate Council law in their rescue operation? Or were their actions justified under the treaty protections? One by one, the species voted. Some supported humanity. Many abstained. A few voted for sanctions. But when the count was complete, the result was clear. The Council finds that humanity acted within their rights under the Protection Treaty. No sanctions will be imposed. However, an addendum will be added to galactic law. The holographic display shifted, showing new text. Juan read it aloud. Human juveniles are under Council protection. Any violations will result in immediate human intervention, which the Council will not prevent or obstruct. All species are advised that humanity prioritizes the safety of their young above all diplomatic considerations. It was not just a law. It was a warning. A clear statement to the entire galaxy. Dreth stood angrily. This is outrageous. You're giving humans permission to act like barbarians. No, the crystal being said quietly. We're acknowledging reality. And we're making sure everyone understands the consequences of their actions. This session is adjourned. As the council dispersed, several species approached Juan privately. Some offered apologies. Others offered respect. A few offered something more valuable. Information about other groups who might target human children? There was a reason we created that treaty, one elderly alien told Juan. We knew this would happen eventually. We just hoped the warning would be enough. Now the galaxy knows. Now they understand. 2 days later, humanity issued its own statement. It was broadcast on every frequency, translated into every known language. To all species in the galaxy. Human children are not subjects for study. They are not resources to be taken. They are not experiments to be conducted. Any attempt to abduct, harm, or exploit human children will be met with immediate and overwhelming force. There will be no negotiations. There will be no trials. There will be no mercy. You have been warned. The Razor Claw Syndicate officially dissolved. Its surviving members were turned over to human authorities for trial. Most were sentenced to life imprisonment. A few disappeared into witness protection after providing information about other criminal networks. The Krell Dominion issued a formal apology and offered massive reparations. They dismantled their xenobiology research program and signed new treaties guaranteeing the rights of all juvenile beings on Colony Sejong 7. Life slowly returned to normal. The children came home to celebrations and tears. Families were reunited. The colony held a memorial for the 3 adults who had died trying to protect the children during the raid. Minho returned to teaching, though his classes now had a permanent security detail. A human warship was stationed in orbit, its presence a constant reminder that this colony was protected. G1 enrolled in Earth's diplomatic academy. She had seen firsthand what happened when laws were broken. She wanted to help prevent it from happening again. Deho published his notes about the abduction. The book became required reading in human schools, a reminder of why vigilance mattered. He titled it, What They Learned. Sora went back to drawing pictures of spaceships. But now, she always drew the Indomitable prominently in the center, with the caption, The Ship That Brought Me Home. In the months that followed, incidents involving human children dropped to 0. Not because criminals suddenly developed morality, but because everyone had seen what happened when the line was crossed. In dark space stations and criminal ports, new rules were established. They were simple and absolute. No human children, ever. The penalty wasn't legal consequences or council sanctions. The penalty was humanity itself, and no one wanted that. 6 months after the rescue, Juan stood at the observation deck of Earth Space Command. He watched ships coming and going, humanity's fleet now 3 times the size it had been. Other species had offered technology sharing agreements. Some offered military alliances. All of them were more respectful than before. Yuna joined him, carrying 2 cups of coffee. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars. Do you think we went too far? Juan asked quietly. Yuna considered the question. We destroyed a research station. We killed people who were trying to stop us from rescuing children. We violated borders and ignored diplomatic protocols. By any standard measure, we absolutely went too far. But those children are home. They're safe. They're healing.